past couple of years, I feel like the superhero genre as a whole has been on the wane. We've passed the point where they're the biggest thing in cinema, where they're the biggest thing on TV, where they've captured the imagination of everybody and anybody around the world. The whole fiasco with the dude who played Kang, and then a number of pretty high-profile box office bombs for Marvel, it feels like we've really left behind that golden age that we saw probably start like 20 years ago with Spider-Man, the OG 2000s trilogy with Tobey. We saw that continue with the X-Men films and with Batman, The Dark Knight. And then of course the MCU, which made it all the more high profile. Made it must-see films. Like, what a time! But yeah, I feel like it's mostly over now, except for Spider-Man. Particularly the Spider-Verse animated universe. They're firing on all cylinders, cooking with every single release. It's truly crazy how good they've gotten. Into the Spider-Verse opened up that new world, and then Across the Spider-Verse really cemented that it wasn't a one-off fluke. So, we've been eating well. But Sony said, nah, just wait, there's more. And they released a short film a week or so ago called The Spider Within, a Spider-Verse story, which serves as a short charity special. And my god, it was so good, just so good. And so I figured, well, why not walk our way through it and share our thoughts? So that's what we're doing today. Let's go! So we start our short film with like 40 seconds of credits, which is pretty long for a 7-minute short, but didn't feel like wasted time because whilst the logos and whatnot were going past the screen, they really started to set the mood. Ominous music, heavy breathing, static crackling, just getting you into that creepy vibe. Setting things up like a horror movie or a horror game. Puts you on edge. You don't want to watch this thing alone in the dark in your bedroom. That's all I'm saying. We then see Miles and we get a comic book-like montage of everything he's been going through. And simply based on the context, I'd say it's probably set a bit prior to Across the Spider-Verse, and he's not doing so well. He's struggling, having to be Spider-Man, always needing to be on guard, getting beaten up, put into dangerous situations, almost dying on the regular, and on top of that, despite his intelligence, he can't apply himself anymore because of the strain of being Spider-Man, and his parents are tightening the screws due to his slumping grades and his frequent absences from class. Really liked this opening. It sets things up really well in regards to Miles' state of mind, but visually, it just looked awesome. I loved how they treated it like they were panels of a comic. Moving panels, like if you combine the moving pictures from like Harry Potter with the classic American comic book vibe, that was this shot. And it was awesome. And I just love how Spider-Verse, it feels so loyal to the origins of these superheroes. It uses those comic book aesthetics and just adds so much to the presentation. Miles then heads home and finds the TV on and it's dark and creepy, and then his dad jumps out like he's Jason from Friday the 13th, which feels kind of mean, but hey, I get it. I'd probably do the same thing to my son.
Bart, do you want to see my new chainsaw and hockey mask?
Oh, sorry. What am I thinking?
And of course, Miles pretty much shit his pants, and can you blame him? No. And it looks like it's just the two of them tonight, and Dad has ordered pizza, he's rented horror movies, rented movies. Oh man, that takes me back to my childhood. Good times, Blockbuster, rest in peace.
It's a bit sad. Sad.
And they have ice cream and a big bucket of popcorn, but Miles ain't feeling it, and so he goes to his room. And honestly, this scene, the disappointment in the dad's voice, bruh, they are getting me in the feels here. And it's perfect, as it really ups the stakes for the upcoming film, where the whole idea is that Jefferson might die. And so these missed opportunities to spend time with his dad whilst he could, it's going to feel all the more tragic. And I think it leaves the audience staring at this scene like the Walter White screaming in the car meme. But yeah, this was cute. Honestly, so refreshing for a Marvel hero to have a parent that's just present, good, not dead, not absent, not cruel, not a secret villain, nothing. Just a good person. How often does that happen? Legit hope they do not go through with killing him off. That would be so refreshing to have him subvert expectations. And based on the way they're building things up, I suspect that actually might be the case. That Miles might succeed and save his dad, especially since he, supposedly, according to the timeline, wasn't even supposed to be Spider-Man. So I think it would make sense for him to be the one to break the cycle, but we're getting off topic. And so Miles goes off to his bedroom, and they had a really cool moment where Miles is just so beaten down and anxious that his anxiety sets off a false alarm Spidey sense, which feels very, very relatable. Of all the superheroes, Spider-Man, or rather this version of Spider-Man, he always feels so real, so normal, so accessible, despite being a hero. So this was just more of the same and really clever. And then we have another scene like we saw before, with those comic book style visuals returning to show off how much pressure Miles has been under. Getting whooped by villains, yelled at by his parents and teachers, My god, once again, just sitting down, doom scrolling, thinking about how everything's going wrong and how much stress you're under and how nothing's working and you're failing in every single way. It's just very relatable to be a teenager and have those feelings. Similarly, it's got big time Puss in Boots The Last Wish vibes with how they're exploring mental health using characters that you'd expect to be portrayed as strong or stoic and unyielding. Love it. Loving the vulnerability here. And then we get to sleep paralysis and the night terror segment, which, like I said earlier, do not watch this alone or at night or in a dark room or before you're going to go to sleep. As whilst this thing is done very well, filled with tension and horror, it's also still very ugh. Anyway, not really sure how accurate this is to sleep paralysis or whatnot, as I've never dealt with that before, but it certainly got across this vibe of visceral fear, of this inescapable dread manifested into a monstrous creature. Everything combines so well in this. The lighting of the room, the music they use, the cuts, the jump scares. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that this scene feels like a bit of a masterpiece. I've done some reading now, and yeah, this does feel 100% like they tried to be accurate to sleep paralysis whilst also still being visually exciting. They have the demon appear, he's a shadowy, creepy figure, then it presses on the chest, makes it hard to breathe, which is another key symptom, and then they just move on from that because they decide, stuff it, time for a full-on horror movie experience. If you have arachnophobia, specifically screw you. Well, rest in peace to those arachnophobes. Because the demon turns into a massive roaring spider, it chases him, and then it turns into hundreds of smaller ones, which swarm him and go in his mouth. Ugh. I had a dream like this once. I was in a room, I had to open a door, and when I turned the doorknob, everything turned to spiders. The door, the roof, the walls, everything. And then they all fell in on me, because obviously spiders lattice together into walls and roofs have no structural integrity. What a lovely dream! I honestly could have done without this section, but, that's just because spiders freak me out at the best of times. But hey, then they followed up with one of the most wholesome scenes in the franchise. And I keep saying this, but it's true. Jefferson's a Chad. Anyway, Miles comes out. He needs to talk. Jefferson drops everything immediately. Doesn't argue, doesn't judge, and he goes for a walk with his son. He listens to him. He engages with him. Just pretty much the ultimate movie dad goals, or just dad goals. I can't imagine having an actual talk like that with my dad. Must be nice, tell you what. And so, yeah, we end it there. Not much else after that. This was an excellent short. Surely an Oscar contender. I mean, do you have to have it play in cinemas to be the Oscars? If so, get on that, Sony. Get on it, because this is just a banger. A really cool and intriguing look at mental health and how it can strike anybody and everybody. And so, yeah, with all that being said, not much else to say. These have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the short? Did you like it? Hate it? If you haven't seen it, has this convinced you to maybe go give it a watch? It's only 7 minutes. I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.